What's up, y'all? Welcome to Brews and Reviews. It's Knowledge, and today I'm reviewing Che Noir and Apollo Brown's As God Intended, and I am sipping on an Ayinger Bavarian Pils. That's a Pilsner from Germany coming in at 5.3%, and this is a great beer. Let's get into this great album. I was very excited for this album to come out after hearing the single that they dropped, Worth Gold. And to tell you the truth, I was more excited about Apollo Brown's production than I was about Che Noir, even though I really appreciated the verses that she kicked on that song. But I had not dug into her short catalog and really been able to appreciate the lyricist that I was about to experience on this album. So while I am blown away by the beats on this album, and I'll say it right now, that this is Apollo Brown's best work to date, and that includes Mona Lisa, Blasphemy, and many of the great classics that we've heard from this great producer. I am even more blown away by Che Noir and the lyricist, the spitter, the songwriter that she is. She explains on the very last track of this album that she was born on the exact same day that Nas's Illmatic dropped. And I don't know if her parents were playing that album on repeat and she was absorbing it all, or if she just extensively dug into Nas later. But you can hear the Nas influence, especially Nas's early work, throughout this entire project. This comparison, which I will highlight a little bit throughout this review, it's not to discredit her in any way. It's actually an immense compliment to be like Nasty Nas. The album kicks off with Antisocial, which has a real nice piano loop over some boom bap drums and a Ghostface sample, so it's preparing us for this 90s era New York style album. If you doubt me on the Nas comparison, just listen to the way her words flow together on the very first two lines of the album. She says, "Look, independent ain't have to look for deals. Work for myself, can't explain to you how good it feels." I can't do the flow justice in the way she's putting words together there, so go listen to the track yourself and you will see the Nas influence. And you might possibly, a little later on in this track, hear some other 90s New York rap influences, such as Biggie's Braggadocio, when she says, "Look, kill them all, I put rappers in cemeteries, then go to your wake and autograph your obituaries." Something like that is just clever wordplay that you could see from Biggie Smalls himself. Blood is Thicker is the next track, and this is a highlight on a great album, so definitely check out this song. Lyrically, she's becoming the personification of the ghetto, and the personification of an object to highlight the descriptions of that object is something that's been done very well by Nas in the past, most notably on his song, I Gave You Power. And if you know that song and you know classic Nas, then again, you'll see the similarities here as she describes the ghetto. But again, she puts her own twist on it. She says, "They call me the ghetto, the hood, the judge that trenches the slums. I created fatherless homes with them innocent thugs. My stray bullets then took the life of kids while they young. A white man's world, so I never get visits from Trump." As Apollo creates the perfect landscape for this kind of descriptive story, Che throws out multiple descriptions very clearly, emphasizing each word to really put a picture in your head. Hustle Don't Give is the next track, and she has already earned the guest spot by one of the GOATs, Black Thought. He appears on here co-signing this young talent in Che Noir that we are getting to witness on this album. And this is a banger. From the minute you hear the drums, you know that you're about to hear some real spitters go off on this. In some of her best lines, you really appreciate the unique way she has of describing something. Like when she says, "Fiends missing teeth always look like they chewing something." Rappers at the top of their craft can describe things in a way that is so unique you never would have thought to describe it that way. Yet at the same time, you can identify and see exactly what they're talking about. Black Thought doesn't phone it in either, and he's competing with the poetic lyrics that Che Noir drops, where he says, "A life begins with sin, transcends, but like a lens, we numb the pain with violins or Vicodins." I prefer the violins myself. But this lets me know even more that I'm really looking forward to Black Thought's next installment in the Stream of Thoughts series. Money Orientated. You can't doubt what I'm saying about the Nas influence at this point, because they straight up lift a sample from one of Nas's most classic songs. That song is Life's a Bitch, but it's not actually from the Nas verse on the song. It's from the classic AZ verse. And Shay uses that sample to build the concept of the entire track. And although we've heard many rap songs talking about money, Shay really puts a unique spin on that perspective. There's also great scratching and distortion on the sample by Apollo, and the snare roll is a really nice touch that he throws in there. Through many sharp critiques and realizations about money, one of the best lines that Shay kicks is, "Jail and death is where the money don't matter. Can't buy my way into heaven when he judging me after." 12 Hours is a nice beat change up from the previous tracks. We hear some different type of percussion going on here. We hear some weird screams in the background that set up this ominous tone for this story that Shay's about to tell us. And as we think about this story and what she's done with this song, have you heard people in rap that try to tell a story and it's just really hard to follow? That's not something wrong with the listener, that they can't comprehend what the story is about. That's something wrong with the MC. But this here is storytelling at its finest, because every line that she kicks moves the plot forward. Every line is necessary. Every line is spit clearly. Every line is understood as a key plot piece to set us up for the twist at the end. There's no chorus at all that's necessary to keep the story moving. And I'm not going to quote any lines here because I don't want to give anything away. I want everybody to be able to listen to this and appreciate it for the first time that they're hearing all of these lines. I just now put out my top 5 lyrics of the year, so check that video out too. I put it out obviously before this dropped, and this song is already a contender for my year-end list of the top lyrics. Also, this is the last time that I'll mention this because it's just going to be implied from here on out, and I don't want to continue to bring this up. But speaking of the Nas comparisons, listen to this track and then go listen to Nas's Undying Love, and you will definitely hear the similarities. Again, that doesn't take anything away from her, because many people have tried to tell stories like Nas in the past, and we can tell that Che Noir is at the top of her craft in the way that she does it, even if it was heavily influenced by a Nas track. I love the beat on Hold It Down. This is signature Apollo Brown. And I recognize the sample here, but I can't place it. So if you know what that is, just drop that in the comments so I'll know for future reference, because it's been bugging me. Lyrically, this track is her dedication to growing up in Buffalo and those that she knows there. And I'm going to say it right now, Che Noir is the dopest rapper right now from Buffalo. And yes, I know what Griselda's doing. They're doing great things. I love Griselda, but they're not on the level lyrically that Che Noir is displaying on this album. So I'm going to say she's the best doing it right now from Buffalo. And as Che represents her hometown, there's also a guest spot that speaks on his personal hometown, and that's Ty Ferris speaking on Detroit, the same place that Apollo Brown is from. No doubt the connection and why he ended up on this album. But this is a great verse. Every syllable is on flow. I really appreciate his inclusion here, and he stays true to his very last line where he says, "We ain't gotta say we the best, me and Shay let the rhymes speak." Daddy's Girl is the next track, and I really appreciate her including this here. I've never heard the absentee father take from a female MC, and I think she does it really well and provides that female perspective. We've heard it a lot from male MCs, so this is a completely different perspective on the absentee father and what that can do to a child. She's extremely revealing, open, and poignant with a lot of her lines, almost coming to realizations about herself with lines like, "The older I get, the more I find it harder to date. because I deal with men and make them suffer for my father's mistakes. This is another track that might end up on my top lyrics of the year. The beat, again, fits her style so perfectly, and that's why I say this is Apollo Brown's best album today, because he crafted that soundscape so well for his MC. For instance, he just lets this track play out at the end. He adds a little extra element and some strings at the end, and that just leaves the room for us to contemplate the heavy lyrics that Che Noir just dropped on this track. Worth Gold, the song that made me check out this whole project. On an album full of great beats, this is probably the most hype. And there's absolutely brilliant wordplay on this, like, come from searching in trap houses, defying parents at. Enough coke lines on the table to write a paragraph. Never talk to snakes, that's what I learned from the Bible. But I learned from my idols to earn, work for my title. They tell us the sky is the limit, stay on earth for survival. But that's why I'm moonwalking, because I learned that from Michael. Truly beautiful words put together, great rhyme scheme. And through this song, she's saying that her writing is worth gold. And we know that now that we've heard 8 straight tracks of wordplay, metaphors, storytelling, and descriptive imagery. The Apple, this is another great beat, great rolling bass line, and another great concept. She's speaking specifically about the beauty of black women, and I have heard that from female MCs before, like Rhapsody, but again, it's something that can't be said enough, and Che has a great take on it. She says, real beauty is flaws, beauty is God. Beauty is when you want to give up, but you choose to be strong. Planet Asia also is a nice inclusion on this song, bringing in the male perspective and coming in speaking about his daughter, and that's a unique take, and I appreciate they included him as a guest spot here. He kills the verse, by the way, and puts a lot of heart into it. Freedom adds to the social commentary of the album. It kicks off with an eloquent speaker talking about how police don't go to jail for murdering black people. And the social commentary with this speaker continues throughout the chorus, talking about other social injustices. And this makes me draw a comparison to great classic era albums or songs by people like Public Enemy or Dead Prez, where they used their chorus to educate with some kind of sample from a good speaker that's going to educate us about social injustices. Che, for her part, also remains poignant on social injustices in her verses with lines like, poison our mind, even poison the food that we eat. Choke us out in broad daylight till we can't move or can't breathe. Follow the wisdom, we realize right away what we already know, that Apollo Brown is a master of chopping samples, and he does so here with another great bass line and a high-pitched organ sound on it. Again, keeping the beats varied, but still very true to his style, and also matching Che Noir's flow like a glove. We've got some braggadocious rhymes here from Che, taking a break from her more heavy subject matter, but even as she kicks it braggadocious, she still keeps it thorough, with lines like, I never knew we was trapped, pain made me aware of it. Because wisdom don't come from age, it comes from pain and experience. A very busy MC from this year, Skyzoo, also makes a guest appearance on this album, and he always sounds so comfortable and inspired by Apollo's beats. He has a great guest spot here, and there's not one whack guest appearance on this album. Everybody on the album was carefully chosen and fits in with the song that they're on perfectly. Winter is based around a somber clarinet sample, and Apollo continues to keep the beats varied by switching them up slightly. Lyrically, there's a really nice juxtaposition between the first verse and the second verse, with the first being about a woman that's really insecure about herself, and that comes out as insecurities in her relationship and allowing her man to control her, whereas the second verse sheds that timidity and becomes more self-confident and self-aware and explains that she doesn't really need this man. To show other women out there how to stand up for themselves and know their worth, she ends the second verse with the line, that's why I'm done waiting for your call, because if I gotta settle for your attention, I don't want none at all. Live by the code, there's a nice atmospheric beat on this as a soundscape for Che to spit numerous jewels, giving the people the code to success with lines like, Freedom is a privilege, you only get what you train your thoughts. Wisdom is the key to unlock the cuffs when they chain your arms. 94, we had to get this track here from a clearly 90s inspired MC, and 94 was the best year in hip hop, hands down. It's my favorite. That's when Nas's debut dropped. That's when Outkast's debut dropped. That's when Biggie's debut dropped. It's undisputable in my mind that this is the best year in hip hop, and Shay knows that, and she's gonna speak on it. The beat centers around a great Common sample that's really chopped up, and it's the best song about hip hop. Everybody knows the Common song, I Used to Love Her, and they chop it up here. And 94 was not only great because of the hip hop and the New York Renaissance, but it was great because that's when Che Noir was born, on the same day that Illmatic dropped, no less. And as she reveals that on this track, the final track on the album, I feel that was very calculated for one thing, because she wanted us to absorb the 13 other songs before we realized that she's some kind of descendant of Nas on this. But it's really amazing to me that I could hear that Nas influence before she ever said that she was born on that same day. She also references many of her other influences on this song, from Big to Jay to Foxy Brown to Mobb Deep to Wu-Tang. She lets us old heads appreciate the respect that she has for our classic. And she continues with even more respect, saying that she wrote her first bars to a Tribe Called Quest beat, and she even calls out Rap City and says that she used to watch Big Tigger, and I think that's just a really nice touch to include here. I'm actually old enough to remember watching Rap City all the time before Big Tigger, when it was Joe Clair and Big Les, and those were good times. We don't get VJs between our videos anymore. We just get ads when we look them up on YouTube. It's too early to say that this is a classic, but I can feel the parallels between this and many classic albums, being that she's on point with the lyrics, the wordplay, the imagery, the song concepts. The beats on this album, not one misses. Everyone feels like it was crafted specifically for the concept that's on the song. Not even one guest appearance is out of place. They're not overdone. They're spaced perfectly throughout the album. While I won't say this is a classic yet, I will say that Che Noir deserves to be in the top tier MC conversation after one album, like Kendrick was, like Nas was. I'm also not going to call this album of the year yet. It takes time to really absorb those things, and the best albums will hit you even more later on. So I'm still waiting to see if it is going to be the #1 album of the year, but it will definitely also be in the conversation. All that being said, I'm going to rate this an 11 out of a 12 pack because it is a buzz that will last forever, and anyone who appreciates real hip hop will appreciate this album. Thank you for watching my analysis of Che Noir and Apollo Brown's As God Intended. If you enjoyed my take on this, please hit like below. You can also subscribe. I release hip hop and hops related content consistently. So until I see you next time, keep buzzing.